Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience. I really, truly appreciate it. Welcome to our Smart Moves seminar series. We're delighted to provide you with insightful education on relevant topics. And our seminars are complimentary and take place every second Wednesday of the month at 10 a.m., both online and in person. My name is Angelique Jackson. I'm the Manager of Business Development and Marketing, and at Charles E. Smith Life Communities, we pride ourselves on delivering personalized care and experiences tailored to the unique needs of the older adults we serve, regardless of their stage in life.
Oh God, I can't hear.
Greenhouse, affordable independent living at Revin's House, assisted living. And
can you speak louder? I'm sorry.
And Cohen Rosen House and long-term and post-acute care at Hebrew Home of Greater Washington. And also primary care specializing in the care of older adults at First Health Center. If you're interested in learning more about our residences and services, please visit our website or give us a call at the Welcome Center to schedule a tour.
Chrissy, I can't hear.
Information will be shared in the chat section. And again, thank you for joining us. Just a few reminders before we begin. We want to hear from you, so please add your questions to the chat and make sure that you are muted as a courtesy to the other attendees. And so without further ado, I would like to welcome our current partner, Laura Quigley and Jan Brito with Capital Senior Solutions to talk about downsizing needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelique. First, for the Zoom attendees, I'd like to make sure that everyone can hear okay. If you could type it into the chat or unmute yourself and comment, we just want to make sure you can hear us.
I can hear you, but I could not hear the other lady.
We'll just proceed and hopefully you can hear us okay. So good morning. As Angelique mentioned, I am Jan Brito. My business partner is Laura Quigley. We are Capital Senior Solutions. While we are residential realtors who can help you when and if the time comes to sell your home, we also provide education on a regular basis on topics of interest to older adults. What qualifies us to speak on these topics? Well, Laura and I both spent a year going through an extensive sort of graduate level course taught by the Seniors Real Estate Institute in Oklahoma City. We were fortunate enough to graduate from that course after being interviewed by a review board, and were bestowed the designation of Certified Senior Housing Professional. We are also certified senior downsizing coaches because, as those of you who have begun to think about downsizing know, that it can be very overwhelming, and sometimes you need someone to talk to help you figure out the answers to your questions. So we have some handouts that we have shared with the folks in the room, and afterwards we will email those handouts to the Zoom attendees. Just want to pause for a minute and make sure everybody can hear. I know a couple people have said not able to hear. So I'll just continue on. Today we're here to talk about downsizing made easy, the 5 easy steps. And of course, there are more than that, but we're just going to start with the basics. And so you know that each step is critical in the process of having a successful move. And by successful, we mean both emotionally and physically. So moving is a process, and with the right planning and support, it doesn't have to be as overwhelming. So I will turn it over to Laura to talk about why downsize, why move at all.
So I'm not on screen, correct?
You're going to need to stand closer to that computer. The computer at the table, yes.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me. I'm not on screen today. But so I'm going to talk about, like, first question is why downsize? And I guess my question is, are the participants seeing the different slide? No? Yes?
Okay.
We're working on that. Sorry about that. We've had a couple of technical difficulties this morning, but we're working through them, and we appreciate everyone's patience on that. So the first question that we always get is sort of why downsize? And I'm very happy for the people that are in the room today to support us. for this presentation. So the first question is why does I can't hear you? I can't hear you.
All right, sorry, we're trying something else here. I'm like, okay. All right, so I guess I'm on screen now. So thank you for that. Okay, so first question being why downsize at all? Now there's many personal reasons why people decide to downsize. And when I'm talking about downsizing today, I am talking about moving from that large family home into a smaller, safer, better environment for people. But downsizing can also mean just decluttering your home to make that your current home a safe place to be. Our focus today is going to be talking about downsizing from the perspective of moving from a larger to a smaller home. So back to why downsizing at all. So there's three primary reasons why most people choose to downsize. The first being social isolation. And as we all remember, during COVID, it was really hard being alone, right? I think all of us suffered. Didn't matter what age you were. Some of us became very socially awkward. I would count myself in one of those categories. But social isolation was really hard on people. And so oftentimes when people are thinking of downsizing and moving, it's because they're missing that. They're missing the ability to interact with other people. The second reason is home maintenance. Excuse me. And with home maintenance, I'm talking, well, there's an expression, and it's first you own a house and then it owns you. And I feel like that expression is applying to me right now. And unfortunately, if you could see the slide has a picture of my driveway. I have a very long, steep driveway, and it's a picture of a snowstorm and a little path cut out up the driveway. And, oh, there it is. Thank you. So that's my driveway. And what happens with me is my husband, who is retired, decides that he's going to shovel the driveway because a man shovels your own driveway, just like a man cleans his own gutters and all those other, quote, manly things that he thinks he has to do. But when he goes out to shovel that driveway, that causes me a lot of stress and anxiety. And it's not a healthy thing for our marriage. And it's not a healthy thing for me physically, because I'm getting really upset about this. I don't think I'm the only person out there who worries about their spouse when they're taking on things and they should not be doing at this point in life, right? So those are sort of the three reasons why people think about downsizing. And the one thing I want you to keep in, oh, I'm sorry, health and wellness. I didn't talk about that. Health and wellness comes into play. And I look at this in my own life right now. I have been cooking dinner now for 37 years. I'm sick of it. And now the family's gone. It's just my husband and myself. And it's kind of hard to get excited about cooking a meal. So people start having poor nutrition at this point in their lives because they just, appetites change, nutritional needs change, and desire to actually cook changes or prepare meals. The other thing that happens is in the wellness side is exercise. We all know we need exercise. If you're in a community where it's easily accessible, like we all walked by the exercise room coming in here, it makes it kind of easy for people to exercise. If you're living alone in a home and you like to walk, but it's too hot or there's nobody to walk with, those things can kind of tend to go by the wayside. So those are the three reasons. And the reason I like to talk about them is in the future, when you're thinking about this, you want to make sure that you're not reactive, I'm sorry, that you're proactive so that you're making the decisions about what you want to do rather than reacting. Like, for example, if my husband fell in the driveway and we had to take a reactive move to do something, it's much better for us to be proactive about it. So, Jim? Okay, well, so the first step is creating a plan. And I know that sounds easy. I'm just going to create a plan. So how do you get started? We find that the two things that hampers people from moving forward is they don't know what their options are. There are so many options out there, or people feel like there's no options out there, nothing that fits what I want. So to figure this out, you got to understand what your options are. And then the second thing that holds people back is trying to understand what to do with all their stuff. And that is a big problem for a lot of people. And that holds you back. I don't know where to go. I got too much stuff. I'm just going to stay here, right? So if you're thinking, how do I start this plan? Today's day one. We're going to start talking about the plan. You don't have to move tomorrow, next week, next year. But the key to success is having that plan in place so that you have control of those decisions, that you know what you want, and then that you communicate what you want to your loved ones. So when you're starting to think about, what makes sense to me, here's a couple questions to consider. What type of lifestyle do you need or do you want now or in the future? We have some clients that say, I want to be in an urban area. I want to walk to doctor's appointments. I want to walk to go to dinner. We have other clients that say, oh my gosh, I need peace and quiet. I need to be like I want to have a walking trail. I don't want to have any noise. And I don't even think I want to be very social anymore. So those are kind of things to think about when you're looking at different, types of communities. Also thinking about your health needs. Some people have diagnosis of health concerns that are coming. They know it's coming down the pike. So why not try to figure out where's the best place to be if and when that health situation occurs. The other thing is, where do you stand financially? We often hear from people, they're like, I can't afford a community. Well, you don't know until you find out what's involved, and also speak to your financial advisor, understand your finances. You might be very pleasantly surprised on what that community lifestyle could look like for you. And then lastly, what's necessary to prepare for a future move? The things you have to consider, as I mentioned earlier, the stuff, where are you going to go? How's that all going to work? Thinking about those things now, when it's not stressful, you're going to be able to come up with, I think, a better plan. So I'm going to keep talking here. All right. I love this slide because I always look at this woman and I think that she looks, so confused. And that's what a lot of people feel when they start thinking about, what are my options? Like what's out there for me? So moving to a senior community is not your only option. There's a lot of options out there. One is maybe moving from that larger home to a smaller environment, maybe an apartment, a condo, townhome. Often people are doing that now and they're aging in place. And something that assists people to age in place are villages. I don't know if has anybody heard of that concept of a village? Because in Montgomery County, there's over 26 villages, and they tend to be local to a neighborhood. And the concept of villages is neighbors helping neighbors to age in place. So let's say, for example, you're, happy living in your home. You feel safe there. You live on one level. You don't really have concerns, but maybe you have a concern about driving. You don't feel safe driving. If you're part of a village, there are volunteers that can help you get you to that doctor's appointment or grocery store. So it's something to think about. Again, as you're making your plan, what feels right for me? Another option is planned adult communities. And you've probably heard of 55 and over communities, 62 and over communities. Those are communities where people of a certain age all live together. And it's really for a social environment. And when we talk about those different concerns, this would cover the social concern. You're going to live in an area with lots of people around your same age. There's going to be lots of socialization activities for you. But there's no healthcare component to a 55 and over community. In our local area, there's Leisure World, which is over in Silver Spring, and there is the Woodlands of Urbana, which is up 270. We don't have that many very close in Montgomery County options for 55 and over. So I'm going to talk about the next communities as if they're all separate, but very often they blend together. So first would be an independent senior living community. That's when you're saying, I'm ready. I'd like to move into a community. The key word here, independent. You need to live independently. And the good news is we're here at Ring House today. So if this is a beautiful independent living community, and you could have a tour afterwards and see what's available to you. So independent is a step above the planned adult community because you have your apartment, you have your privacy, you have your kitchen if you want to cook. There's usually parking. Some allow pets. You can come and go as you please. But there's also a meal plan. So if you're that person who doesn't want to cook anymore, you can have your meals provided. The key, again, is independent. You have to qualify to live in an independent community. So you have to meet certain health requirements. And so if you're thinking about that, we always say it's better to do it sooner rather than later when you may no longer qualify if your health has changed. So as I mentioned, we're in Ring House today, so that's independent. So let's talk about assisted. So assisted is that next level of care. And that's when you need assistance. It's called the ADLs, the assisted daily living activities. So assisted living communities are licensed by the state of Maryland. They are, I'm sorry, I'm going to jump back to independent. Independent living, you typically purchase or rent, or you have a buy-in. When you get to assisted living, it's a rental model. So you need to qualify to live there. They provide some levels of medical care, usually medical management. You no longer have a kitchen. You can still come and go as you please, but all meals are provided with assisted living. There's no major medical care, but there is some level of care provided. So it's important when if you think that you're at that level and you're interviewing assisted livings to understand exactly what care is provided. Here in the Charles E. Smith communities, a Landau House is assisted living. One thing that comes up sometimes with assisted living that I want to point out is your healthcare insurance, not your long-term healthcare insurance, but just your healthcare insurance does not pay for assisted living. If you have long-term care insurance and you need help with the ADLs, your policy may pay for part of the assisted living, but assisted living is private pay. So again, we have Landau House here at Charles E. Smith, and then also Revit's House. Revit's House is assisted living. It's an affordable living option for older people and also people with disabilities. So then you have skilled healthcare community. So a skilled healthcare community offers 24-hour care. And it's not just for seniors, it's for anyone who needs that level of care. So you can have all age groups within a skilled nursing community. And they tend to have rehab facilities also. So sometimes if someone, let's say, has taken a fall, they've gone to the hospital, then they need to go to rehab, they will go to a skilled healthcare community. And, you know, in the past, people thought of these as nursing homes. So again, people who need 24-hour care. Here in Charles E. Smith, the Hebrew Home of Greater Washington is a skilled nursing community. And I think it's the largest nursing home in the Mid-Atlantic region. So then memory care. And again, I'm stepping them out separately. Oftentimes you're going to see them bundled in a community. They often offer more than one, but we're seeing more and more memory care communities where they are standalone memory care. This is just for people who have cognitive difficulties, and everyone, all the residents are being cared for by trained staff to deal with this type of cognitive decline. Here at Charles E. Smith, there's two options for memory care. One is the connections at Landau House. So you could be in assisted living at Landau House and they have a memory care component. And they also have the Cohen-Rosen House, which is a standalone, separate memory care community. It's family-based. Both of them are considered to be very innovative in memory care. So if that is a concern with your family, you might want to look into those. And then lastly, continuing care communities. That's sort of what I've been talking about, because here at Charles E. Smith, it actually is a continuing care community where on one campus, you have everything that you need. There's several different continuing care, or they're called life plan communities now, in our region. Charles E. Smith is one of them. The other categories I talked about, the independent, the assisted, the skilled, the memory care, there's a lot of those options too. Some are standalone, some are bundled. For example, you might have assisted and memory care together. So I've given you a lot of information in a short period of time. Jan and I are always available to meet with clients, walk you through what options are out there. We tour with clients all the time, kind of be that unbiased third party that can be there saying, did you ask this question? Have you thought about this? Making sure that when you do make your decision, that you're ready and it's the right place for you. So now I'm going to hand it over to Jan.
Actually, I'll take over in personal property if you continue.
You don't you? No, it's your section. Yeah, jump in. They need to see you too.
All right, so sorry, we have a question from the audience. Could you repeat the question?
She hasn't asked again.
Uh-huh.
Now, long-term care insurance, you said they don't pay for. Long-term care, that's about long-term care insurance in assisted living.
Okay, so the question was about long-term care insurance and assisted living. Long-term care insurance does not cover your monthly rental costs, but it will cover home health care if you want to bring that in to a community. But long-term care insurance coverage is quite another topic, and a big topic. And we actually have a separate seminar on that topic by itself. It's such a big one. But hopefully that answered your initial question.
And that's why they're not, yeah, all people don't, they just assume it's gonna cover everything, yeah. But it will cover your, activities of daily living here. Level, but it won't cover for the actual cost. Very good one. Medical support, right?
All right, so let's go back to talking about how to communicate with your the people in your life. That's a very important process, of course. And I don't know about you guys, but not all families communicate effectively, right? Sometimes you have adult children who want to direct you on what you should do. Sometimes you have professionals who are advising you, but whatever you do, it's important to communicate with the special folks in your life. Communicating your wishes is not about asking for opinions or permission necessarily. It's about establishing expectations. So for instance, you might have been visiting a few communities or talking to realtors or talking to different, life plan communities. And once you've made a decision on where you want to go, it's important to have a conversation with your family members. And you don't want to do this at a family gathering or a holiday gathering. You want to have a specific conversation about the topic. So sit down with them face to face and say, honey, we've looked at lots of different communities and we've decided we want to be at the Ring House in Rockville. So we just wanted you to know that that's our decision. Our timing is still several months away, but we are moving in that direction and going through the downsizing process. Is there any questions that you want to ask us or anything you need to understand better? So in other words, you're telling them what you're doing. You're not asking for their permission. And the important thing to remember is to make this plan while you can still make the decisions for yourself. Before a crisis happens where someone else is making it for you. That's the last thing you want to happen. We have folks in our Downsizers Club that are on waiting lists for communities 3 years out. So they've made their plan. They know what they're doing. They're taking their time going through the downsizing process. I think I might have a copy of a sample letter here that you can share. Maybe on the next slide. There you go. So it's just a sample letter that you can use to, list the communities that you've visited and the address and the floor plan and that sort of thing. You also want to make sure you're communicating with your professional advisors in your life, your CPA, your estate attorney, that sort of thing. And speaking of those types of folks, if you haven't looked at your will lately or created your end of life documents, this might be a good time to refresh those. Take a look at your will if you haven't updated it in the last many years. I know when I pulled mine out, I realized I hadn't looked at it in about 30 years. So that was a little too long. So I went to an estate attorney and got not only my will updated, but power of attorney, health directives, all those other documents that you need to think about. And the important thing is don't store the originals in a safe deposit box, because God forbid something happens to you, then your family members or your personal representatives cannot get into that safe deposit box to access those documents. So You want to give copies to the folks that are your beneficiaries, your personal representatives, and then keep an original in a safe place in your home, but not at a bank safety deposit box. So I'll just check and see if there are any questions in the chat. Not regarding communications, but there are some others that we'll get to at the end. So I think I'll turn it back over to Laura now to talk about the support you might need during this process.
Okay, so I'm back. Sorry for the jumping back and forth, but I figure this way we'll see if you're paying attention, right? Okay, so the next section I want to talk about. So we've talked about step 1, that's making your plan. Step 2 is communicating that plan. And then step 3 is what is the support you need around that plan. And everyone needs support when they're making this type of move, or actually any type of big decision, big move in their lives. So we can all use some help, right? And recognize that you need support. What typically happens with moves like this is you've gone on that wait list, as Jan mentioned, and you know, you're excited, you've got your plan, you've told your family what you're going to do, and you're on the wait list, and then the call comes in. And then you're like, oh no. Because when the call comes in and they say that maybe you've picked a 3-bedroom apartment and it's ready. You don't have a lot of time to make that move. You might have 30, 45, 60 days to make that move. So you want to make sure that you have your team in place that's going to help you make that move. So questions will come up like, who do I call? How do I get started? And so in making that plan, if you start to surround yourself with professionals now, you'll know who you want to call. You know, interview people now. Figure out who is going to be the best fit for you. That way you remain control in all the decisions, and that your support is ready, and they know you and they know what you're looking to do. So it's not uncommon for people to get really caught up here. So sometimes people reject that call. They might say, oh, I can't do it. Even though they've waited 6 months, a year for that one specific apartment, they're feeling overwhelmed. So that's why, like, Jan and I are here to help you get ready for that piece. And as Jan mentioned, I believe we've got clients that are moving in 6 years, people that are waiting for communities to be built, but they're all getting sort of like what I call the ducks in the row to be ready. So it might be self-serving here, but I do think it's important to work with a realtor who knows how to work with this type of move. Whether it be us or someone else, there's other professionals out there, but take the time to connect with somebody that you know, you like, you trust, and knows going to have your best interests at heart. The other big player that we like to recommend that you meet and interview and we are not this person, it's a move manager. We work with a lot of different move managers. We coordinate with them very tightly with our clients, but just in case people don't know what a move manager is or what they do, best way to describe it is like, they just make it so easy for you. So they have like sort of a menu of options, but let's say if you did everything with a move manager that they offer, the first thing they would do would be create a floor plan for where you're moving and meet with you to figure out what are the items that your must-haves that have to go with you. You know, maybe there's some hutch that has got to come. Doesn't matter that it's really big and it's going to take up a lot of wall space. This is an important piece of furniture. It's got to come with you. So they'll help you create that whole floor plan of what you're going to need. Then at the next level, they will help you figure out what to do with all your stuff. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. But what move managers recommend and what Jan and I recommend is when you're starting to thinking about moving, don't get caught in that trap of what am I getting rid of? Start thinking about what you want to take with you. Okay. So work with your move manager. You're going to identify what you want to come with you. And I'm going to use 2 stories to help you understand what they can do for you. The first one was, we had a client with 5 children. No one lived local. This woman came to us and said, I want to be a minimalist. I'm going to move with 1 suitcase and I'm going to go live with my kids different times of the year. I don't want any of this stuff, but this stuff is important and I want my children to have it. So the move manager coordinated moving items, photos, artwork, furniture to 5 different locations across the country. And when the woman left, she left with a suitcase. She was very happy about that. Another good example is a client of ours. Her husband had passed. She was moving into a community and was really feeling overwhelmed because she had like a 5-bedroom house, so much stuff. So she worked with a move manager to create the floor plan, figure out what was going to go, and then to actually do the physical move, because they do the physical move of all your stuff and they unpack all your stuff. So in this case, the adult daughter came in, and I like to use expression, she swooped in, because that's sort of what I do in my family. She swooped in, got off the plane, she's gonna do everything, right? We go over there that morning and she's got her jeans on, her sneakers on, and she's like telling her mom what to do. You need to take that piece of artwork. We need to pack up these spoons. And mom was like, no, we don't. I got people. They're doing that. Why don't we go to lunch? So mother and daughter, rather than have that dynamic that can happen, and I say it can happen because I know it happened in my family, excuse me. They went out to lunch. The move managers packed up all their stuff. They came back from lunch and they were able to stay in the home that night because it was such a large home. The next morning, same thing. They didn't have a role because the move managers had moved everything and unpacked. So mid-afternoon, the daughter and the mom go to the community, and it's like HGTV episode, you know, where you big reveal, you open the door and it's all done. The bed is made, linens are in the closet, spices are in the spice rack, pictures are hung. So mom can start living, not worrying about tripping over boxes and where her stuff is. So both mother and daughter were so appreciative of it, because for their relationship, it was a very positive experience. And the daughter left knowing that mom was settled in and happy with what her new lifestyle was going to be. So those are the 2 things. The rest on this list are all different important things to have. We work with estate liquidators. I was talking to some of the people that are here this morning, talking about an estate sale that one of our clients has going on this weekend. We work with different movers. Maybe you need a personal organizer. Maybe you're 6 years out, but you just would like to start slowly. So we have the tools and the resources that we can, at our disposal. They're all vetted. We work with these people all the time, but it's your choice who you want to work with. We will bring people to you for you to interview, for you to see if it's a good fit for your needs. So that's surrounding yourself around. I think, are you up, Jan?
I think I am.
All right. There, stop.
We're now going to talk about everybody's favorite topic. What do I do with all my stuff? I don't know. Maybe what's the first thing, the people in the audience, what's the first thing you started thinking about when you started thinking about downsizing? I've lived in this house for 40 years. I don't even know what closet to begin with, right? So we like to recommend that you start small. And like Laura mentioned, start as far in advance as you possibly can. Even if you might be a couple of years out, you can start small. Start with one drawer, with one closet. And I think it's mostly important to figure out what it is you want to take with you. That's more manageable than deciding where all this stuff that I don't want is going to go, right? So make that your first task. Figure out what you want to take with you in the space you're going to. And that's one of the reasons it's so important to make a plan, like Laura mentioned early on. If you know where you're going, it makes everything else fall more easily into place. You know the size of the dwelling you're going to be going to, how many bedrooms, baths, the square footage. If you are working with a move manager, they can actually do that floor plan for you based on what it is you want to take with you. Will it fit? Where will it go? So get that part out of the way. And then in terms of liquidating the other things that you don't want, how many of you have favorite china you're saving for your kids? Silver. I got news for you, folks. Your kids don't want your china and your silver and your antiques. It seems like today's younger generation is more interested in minimalism, and they're not so much into using the old china and so forth. So if you've got that favorite china packed away somewhere waiting to give to your kids that don't want it, break it out, use it every day. You're worth it. You deserve it, right? You've worked long and hard. You should have a nice meal on a nice plate if you want to. So, and then in terms of how to get rid of the other things that your family might not want, if you believe you have items of value, there are several ways to approach that. However, one thing we don't recommend is trying to do a yard sale on your own. They're so labor intensive. there's very little return for what the effort that you put into it. There are several different types of estate liquidators out there that can help you. You can either use someone like Daniel Sanders with For Sales Ltd, FOUR Sales Ltd, who will come in and look at your home and the items in it and let you know if you have enough of value to actually have an estate sale. And then his crew will take those items off-site and have a live auction outside of your home, which eases some stress on you of not having to deal with an estate sale in your home while you're still living there. That's a bit uncomfortable. There's also people that we call pickers who will come in and give you cash on the spot for items of value. Now, obviously, they're going to go resell it, so you may not make as much money, but it's one way to get some value out of things in your home that you believe do have value. And speaking of things that have value, that's another interesting topic. We have a whole seminar on personal property, keeping, valuing, tossing, or selling, because you might think that you have an item of value and it's not really worth any. Case in point, who has Beanie Babies? I have a whole bin full of Beanie Babies. I found out they're not worth anything, unfortunately. It's not going to pay for my retirement. So, but folks like Daniel Sanders will be able to tell you what has value. And if you watch our seminar series for the next occurrence of that seminar, I think you'll find it very valuable. And then there are donation points. Wider Circle is one that we work with a lot. They take all sorts of items, including furniture, professional clothing, and either we or the move managers you choose to work with will help you get those items to whatever donation point they need to go to. We or they can assist with shipping items out of state to other locations if that's the case. And then, of course, if you need to trash things, we can also arrange to get it to the transfer station here in Montgomery County or other locations within Virginia and DC. Let's see. I think that's all I need to say right now about your stuff. I do want to mention we have a free monthly Downsizers Club that meets on Zoom the first Friday of every month. And these are people that they could be moving in 6 months, they could be moving in 3 years, but they're people who are planning ahead. And every month we share resources and amongst each other and success stories and challenges and it's a small support group. We also assign homework every month. So we have this little downsizing wheel. I put it in the chat and they click it with their mouse, and whatever area it lands on is what you work on for that next month. Like I think last month I got books. So I was so proud of myself. I packed up 6 big boxes of books and donated them to the library, and I felt so good. So that's a resource that you might want to take advantage of, and you can get that schedule at capitalseniorsolutions.com. So I believe I'll turn it over to Laura again for step 5 in the process.
I'm going to just jump back for a second. I'm back again. When Jan was mentioning the sorting, we have like this one slide here that we find very helpful for people when they're starting to think about sorting these things. You know, what do you want to take with you? What do you want to give to your family? What do you know you want to sell? What do you think hopefully donation will take? And what do you know really doesn't have value? So just get a sticker system and you can start thinking about that. And if you look around the house and you have like, let's say, for example, orange stickers on lots of things, well, why are you keeping them? You know you're going to donate them. And you can start that process too. And then for the family, we recently had a situation with a client who showed us like this, I don't know what they're called, those really big mixers, the ones that they're on the counter, they take up a lot of space. And if you're a big baker, you have them. And she was talking about how she loved to bake, but now she had arthritis. And so she wasn't baking anymore, but she loved this mixer. And someday she was going to give it to her niece. So we had a conversation around, well, when is someday? Why not give it to your niece now? You know she wants it. You know she loves to bake, and maybe she'll make some things for you, but you can see the joy of her using it now. So kind of think about those things too. Like what are we waiting for? I had a niece come over last weekend to my house because she just got her first apartment. And I said, you can shop in my house. And I will say she picked a piece of artwork that I was like, I love that piece of artwork. And I had to say to myself, but why? If she wants it, So I practiced what I preached. I let her take it. I did go visit, and I don't like where she has it hanging, but I'll, keep my mouth shut about that. But I did give it away. All right. So step 5, just like there's 3 different ways, 3 different factors that people use to decide whether or not they're moving. Remember we talked about that, the health and wellness, maintaining the home, and the socialization. There's actually also studies that show there's 3 different ways that if people approach this new lifestyle, it kind of demonstrates whether or not they're successful. The first being the level of optimism. If you're optimistic about what's coming, and we find levels of optimism raise when it's your decision, when you've made the choice, when you've picked where you want and you're excited, optimistic about where you're going, that's going to help with the adjustment when you get there. Because again, nobody in your family said, you have to do this. You're saying, I want to do this. Your support network. And your support network is not just the services behind you, like Jan and I, it's also your friends, your family. Just because you've moved to a community doesn't mean that you no longer have your friends around, your family around. They can come see you. There's, dining room options and party room options. So make sure you continue to maintain those relationships that are so important to you. And then level of activity. And by activity, I don't mean like, did you pack a bunch of boxes? It sort of goes back to your level of involvement. Were you involved in this? Did you make the choices of who you were going to work with? And are you confident that they have met your needs and you've communicated what you wanted to be done? So then adjusting to the new lifestyle. This is a little bit repetitive, but being active in the process, staying active in the process, and being active when you get there. I mean, if you've moved someplace because they've got great walking trails, well, start using them. And ideally, you've moved in such a way that you don't have a lot of unpacking to do and boxes, that you're actually starting to enjoy the reason you decided to move here. Does that make sense? You've picked a place and now start enjoying it. Keeping in touch with your family and friends. The focus on physical activity and good nutrition. I know for me, not having to ever cook again, I know my nutrition will get better. I think I would be pretty excited about that. Oftentimes communities have education opportunities, or you can tutor. There's so many different ways to contribute to society and in your life. So take time, explore the resources, and just take some time to explore your new lifestyle and learn to have fun again. So those are our 5 steps. I'm going to just go through them again quickly. So first, making the plan. And I hope you don't no longer feel like that's overwhelming. You can make a plan. Second, communicate that plan to your family and friends so that they understand. And if you think about that, once you've communicated what you want to do, it does take a certain burden off your family and friends because they don't have to decide for you. They know what you want. Surround yourself with professionals to help. One thing I didn't mention when I was talking about move managers is Jan and I feel so strongly about move managers that when our clients are preparing to move, we'll pay for the first 3 hours of a move manager, just so you can get a taste of what they do, what they offer. And once you do, pretty certain you're going to want this support, person on your team. Then dealing with the house of possessions, again, think about what you want to take with you. We're going to help you get rid of the rest. Okay, you don't have to figure that all out. We're going to help you figure that out. And then you get there and start living your life. You've made a choice to do this. So I think we're going to take some questions. Jan's already talked about the Downsizers Club. The next one is, it's always the first Friday of the month at 11 a.m. It's a Zoom call. We have people that come on from all over the local area, Virginia, Maryland, and DC. It's really just an opportunity to share resources. Where have you found to donate something, or who have you found to be responsive? Sometimes we have guest speakers come on if there's a topic that, for example, I think we're planning to have a move manager come on because people are like, I really want to know, I want to dig deeper on what do they do? What are their fees? What does it look like? So we hope you'll join us. Again, there's no fee to become part of a Downsizers Club. And I think people really get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So Jesse, are there questions in the chat? You want to move closer and we can do them together?
Yep. Yes, there was one that I believe Angelique already answered. Is Charles E. Smith the only CCRC in the DC metro area that offers kosher dining?
What was the answer?
It's not, I can't see it. so.
Okay.
Angelique, I think you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yes, I did message Alan, letting him know that we aren't a traditional CCRC, but we have all the levels of care of a CCRC. And yes, we are the only retirement community in the Mid-Atlantic that does offer kosher dining. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Angelique. Another question, I'm happy to get rid of or give away tons of stuff, but with a lifetime of accumulation, it would take a lifetime to get rid of most of the things, one large bag after another. Are there any services that could take the items in a very large way, either for donation or trash? That's the hardest part, not deciding what to get rid of. It's getting the massive amount of stuff out of the apartment. Are there any such services? Well, yes, there are. There are many services. One of them is 123 Junk, who will come and load up big trucks with your stuff. They charge by the truckload, but they will haul away whatever you want to get rid of and take it to the transfer station. If you pack items that you want them to donate, so you would have to wrap and pack and put them in boxes, but they will take those items to donation points. And they also have a place in their own warehouse where they take unwanted items that they've received from clients, and they have it there for charities to come pick up. So the folks who actually need this stuff can still benefit from it.
One thing I really like about 123 Junk also is they will come out and give you an estimate. And if it takes another truck over what they estimated, you're not charged for it. So if they didn't do a good, strong estimate, they're not going to come back and say, oh, it took a truck and a half or took 2 trucks. No, they'll give you a solid estimate of what they think it will take. Yes, we have a question here.
Professionals that take good clothing or purses, things of value.
A wider circle specifically is in need of professional clothing for both men and women, including professional shoes for their clients to go on job interviews. So that's one source. A wider circle, WIDER. Yeah.
I see there's a question here about like getting rid of a lot of stuff, a massive amount of stuff, like a hoarder situation. The team at 123 Junk, they do that all the time. And they actually teach classes about hoarding. And there's a lot of junk haulers out there. We just have found them to be very responsive to us and to our clients, but they know how to, and they do it very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Another question in the chat is Charles E. Smith the only CCRC in the area with kosher dining? Did we address that?
Yes,
Okay, very good. Let's see what else. We did put an evaluation link in the chat. If those on Zoom wouldn't mind completing that, we'd really appreciate the feedback. And then for the folks here in the room, Jesse will pass out our evaluation forms here. We also have a very comprehensive list of disposal and donation resources that we'll be emailing to everyone afterwards. So you should find that to be a good resource. If anybody has further questions about what Charles E. Smith Communities has to offer, Angelique, I believe, has put her information in the chat and would be happy to answer any further questions or set up tours for anyone interested. I wanted to also let you know about our next seminar coming up on August 16th. It will be via Zoom at 11 a.m. and it's called What Can I Do About Cognitive Change? And we have a very experienced care manager with Corwood Care doing a very comprehensive presentation on the subject. I think you'll find it fascinating and hope you can join us. So let's see if there are any other questions. And if not, thank you all very much for coming. We hope you found this beneficial and that we'll see you at a future seminar soon. Thank you. Thank you very much.